2.5 million years ago, in a world that would be unrecognizable to us today, a singular event occurred that would irrevocably alter the destiny of life on Earth. A creature, balancing precariously on two legs, bent down and picked up a stone. With a clumsy but calculated motion, it struck that stone against another. Clack! That sharp, rhythmic sound echoing across the East African savanna was the opening bell of the human story. That single moment, the first deliberate modification of the physical world to suit a creature's will, ignited a journey so vast, so arduous, and so transformative that it defies easy comprehension. To understand this journey, one must first grasp the sheer, crushing weight of the time involved. Imagine the entirety of human existence as a great clock. The era we are about to explore, the Old Stone Age or Paleolithic, does not occupy just a few minutes of that clock. It represents nearly the entire day. This epoch spans 2.5 million years, not 2,500, not 25,000, but 2.5 million years of struggle, adaptation, and survival. Within this immense cathedral of time, the events we typically study in history books, the rise of Rome, the building of the pyramids, the Industrial Revolution, the invention of the Internet, are mere blinks of an eye, compressing into the final fleeting seconds before midnight. The Paleolithic accounts for 99% of human history. Everything else, agriculture, cities, writing, empires, the very concept of civilization, is merely the final 1%. Yet we often dismiss those millions of years as a dark, stagnant prelude. We are wrong. The Stone Age was not a waiting room for history. It was the forge in which we were made. Why should you, listening in the comfort of the modern night, care about these distant, shadowy figures? Because this is not just a history lesson, it is a mirror. The blood that beats in your chest, the adrenaline that floods your system when a shadow moves in the corner of your eye, the inexplicable comfort you feel when staring into a crackling fire. These are heirlooms. They are the genetic echoes of ancestors who lived, loved, and fought in the long night of the Pleistocene. Your fear of the dark? That is a survival mechanism gifted to you by a great-grandmother a million years ago who knew that the saber-toothed cat hunted when the moon was hidden. Your craving for sugar and fat? That is the biological memory of a time when a ripe fruit or a marrow-rich bone meant the difference between seeing another sunrise and fading into the dust. Your ability to throw a ball with precision? That is the legacy of hunters who learned over thousands of generations to calculate the arc of a stone or a spear to bring down moving prey. Your capacity for language, for music, for cooperation, for love itself, all of it was hammered into existence on the anvil of the Stone Age. To understand who we are now and where we might be going, we must go back. We must strip away the layers of silicon and steel, concrete and plastic, and return to a time when stone was the highest technology and survival was the only ambition. So, settle in. Let the darkness of the present night wrap around you as we travel back to the true night of our origins. This is the story of how we became human. Chapter 1. The first spark in the Rift Valley. Close your eyes and cast your mind back roughly 2.6 to 2.9 million years. We find ourselves in East Africa, in the region we now call the Great Rift Valley. But the map is different here. The world is in flux. The climate is cooling, The lush rainforests are retreating, giving way to a patchwork of open woodlands and vast golden savannas. It is a beautiful, terrifying world. On the horizon, distant volcanic peaks smoke and rumble, shaping the very ground beneath our feet. The grasslands are teeming with life, but it is a life that would seem alien to a modern safari-goer. There are herds of Hipparion, three-toed horses that dart nervously through the acacia scrub. Unlike the single-hoofed horses of today, these creatures have three distinct toes, an adaptation to the soft mosaic ground of the Pliocene. They are smaller, skittish, constantly watching for the shadows in the tall grass. And there are giants here. Lumbering through the trees are the Gomphotheres, specifically creatures like Stegotetrabelodon. These are the nightmares and the wonders of the epic, massive, elephant-like beasts, but armed with 4 tusks. 2 great ivory lances curve from their upper jaws, while 2 smaller, shovel-like tusks protrude from their lower jaws, used to dredge up roots and strip bark. They are the architects of the savanna, knocking down trees and opening paths that our ancestors will follow. The sun beats down with an indifferent intensity, just as it has for eons. But amidst this ancient rhythm of predator and prey, something new is stirring. Moving through the tall grass is a creature that seems painfully vulnerable. It stands perhaps 4 feet tall. It has no claws to rend flesh, no great fangs to tear throats, no thick hide to deflect attack. It is Homo habilis, the handy man. To the casual observer, they look much like the apes that came before them. Their arms are long, dangling past their knees, a reminder of nights spent sleeping in the safety of tree branches. Their faces still jut forward, bearing the muzzle of a primate. Their brains are roughly half the size of yours. But look at their hands, the technological singularity, the Oldowan Revolution. In the dry bed of the Gona River in Ethiopia, or perhaps on the shores of Lake Turkana in Kenya, one of these creatures pauses. It picks up a cobblestone, a river-rounded rock the size of a grapefruit. In its other hand, it holds a hammerstone. This is the moment. The creature does not throw the stone. It does not use it merely to crack a nut. It strikes the cobble with the hammerstone, not randomly, but with a precise, glancing blow. A sharp flake of stone flies off, revealing a jagged edge. Clack. This sound, the percussion of stone on stone, is the heartbeat of the Paleolithic. This tool, which archaeologists will later name the Oldowan chopper, is crude by our standards. It looks like a broken rock, but it represents a cognitive leap of monumental proportions. To make it, the hominin had to understand the physics of fracture mechanics. It had to understand the conchoidal fracture, how force travels through rock. More importantly, it had to possess foresight. It had to look at a raw lump of stone and see a tool hidden inside it, a tool that did not yet exist. This simple chopper was the key to a new world. With this sharp edge, Homo habilis could do what its teeth could not. It could slice through the thick, tough hide of a dead hippopotamus. It could hack through muscle. It could scrape meat from bone. And perhaps most importantly, it could become a key. The savanna was littered with the kills of the true apex predators, the saber-toothed cats like Dinophalis and Meganterion. These killers left behind carcasses, picked clean of meat, but still rich in one precious resource: bone marrow. The bones of wildebeest and antelope were nature's safes, locking away dense, fatty, calorie-rich marrow. No hyena or vulture could easily access the largest of them, but with a stone hammer, Homo habilis could smash the lock. This access to high-energy fat triggered a biological explosion. The brain is an expensive organ. In modern humans, it consumes 20% of the body's energy. To grow a bigger brain, you need high-octane fuel. The marrow provided that fuel. A feedback loop began. Better tools meant more meat. More meat meant bigger brains. Bigger brains invented better tools. The stone in the hand forced the brain to expand. The birth of culture. But there is a second, quieter revolution happening here. This tool-making was not an instinct like a spider weaving a web. It was a skill. It had to be learned. Imagine an elder sitting in the dust, surrounded by younger members of the troop. The elder strikes the core. Clack. The angle is wrong. The stone shatters. The elder adjusts, demonstrates the platform preparation, and strikes again. Clack. A perfect flake detaches. The young ones watch, imitate, fail, and try again. This interaction is the birth of teaching. It is the beginning of the cumulative transfer of knowledge that defines humanity. One individual invented a technique, and instead of dying with them, it was passed down. It spread from the Gona River to Olduvai, from the Afar Triangle to South Africa. For over 1 million years, this tradition, the Oldowan industrial complex, persisted. It was the first culture, the first evidence that we were no longer just animals living in the present, but beings capable of building on the past. Chapter 2. The Promethean Gift, the Conquest of Fire. For 1 million years, our ancestors lived in a world where the setting sun marked the end of agency. Darkness was the domain of the leopard, the hyena, and the unseen terror. Humans were forced to retreat to cliffs or trees, huddling together in the cold, waiting for the dawn. We were prisoners of the night. But then a new character entered the story. Around 1.9 million years ago, Homo erectus appeared. Taller, more athletic, with a brain significantly larger than habilis. Erectus was a walker, a traveler. And somewhere in the darkness of history, Erectus did the impossible. They captured a god. They tamed fire. The exact moment of this discovery is lost to the winds of time, but the archaeological record whispers hints to us. Deep in the Kalahari Desert of South Africa, in a vast cavern known as Wonderwork Cave, scientists have found the smoking gun. In layers of sediment dated to 1.0 million years ago, and perhaps as far back as 1.7 million years, there are microscopic traces of wood ash and burned bone. These were not wildfires that blew into the cave. The fire was too deep inside, too controlled. This was a hearth. Travel forward in time and north in space to the banks of the Jordan River in Israel, to a site called Gesher Benot Yaakov. Here, 790,000 years ago, the evidence becomes undeniable. Archaeologists found clusters of burned flint, seeds of wild barley and grape, and charred wood. The burning was localized, specific, the footprint of a campfire. But they found something else, something that speaks to the sensory delight of those ancient nights. They found the remains of carp-like fish, and recent analysis of the fish teeth shows they were not merely thrown into a fire to be disposed of. They were heated to a specific, controlled temperature. They were cooked. The implications of this discovery are profound. Raw meat is tough, chewy and difficult to digest. Raw tubers are fibrous and often toxic. But fire changes everything. Heat acts as an external stomach. It breaks down long protein chains, gelatinizes starches, and kills parasites. It essentially pre-digests the food. When our ancestors began to cook, they unlocked a massive new caloric surplus. They no longer needed massive jaws and huge digestive tracts to process raw vegetation. Their guts shrank, and the surplus energy was redirected to the brain. We are, biologically speaking, the cooking ape. We are obligated to the flame. But fire gave us more than just calories. It gave us time. Before fire, the day ended at 6 p.m. After fire, the day lasted as long as the wood held out. Picture Homo erectus gathered around a hearth at Gesher Benot Yaakov. The darkness presses in, filled with the chuffs of lions and the whoops of hyenas, but the circle of light is a sanctuary. The fire provides warmth, keeping the chill of the Pleistocene night at bay. It provides safety. Predators fear the flame. In this illuminated circle, something magical happens. The day's work, the hunting, the gathering, the tool-making is done. Now, there is time to look at one another. The flickering light dances on faces, highlighting expressions, fostering empathy. Mothers can tend to infants. Elders can mend tools. And here, in the firelight, the first stories begin to form. Perhaps they were just grunts and gestures reenacting the hunt, but they were the seeds of language, of myth, of the very stories we tell today. The campfire was the first school, the first theater, the first temple. Chapter 3. The Great Migration and the Spear, armed with the hand axe, a beautiful teardrop-shaped tool of the Acheulean industry that appeared around 1.76 million years ago. And the mastery of fire, humans did what no primate had done before. They left Africa. This was not a marched conquest. It was a slow drift. A troop might move a few miles a year, following the migration of game, seeking new water sources. But over generations, this drift carried them out of the Rift Valley, across the Levantine corridor, and into the vast expanse of Eurasia. They reached Dmanisi in Georgia by 1.8 million years ago. They reached the steamy jungles of Java by 1.6 million years ago. They marched into the temperate woodlands of Europe. And as they moved, they changed. They adapted to the cold, to the different rhythms of the seasons, to new beasts. For a long time, we underestimated these ancestors. We thought they were simple scavengers, waiting for lions to finish their meals. But a discovery in a coal mine in Schöningen, Germany, shattered that illusion. Buried in the mud, preserved perfectly for 300,000 to 400,000 years, archaeologists found weapons. These were not crude clubs. They were 8 wooden spears, magnificent in their craftsmanship. Carved from the trunks of slow-growing spruce trees, they were 6 to 7 feet long. The makers had carefully stripped the bark and smoothed the wood. Most tellingly, the spears were balanced like modern Olympic javelins. The center of gravity was shifted to the front third of the shaft, optimizing them for flight and penetration. These were projectile weapons, designed to be thrown with force and accuracy. Found alongside the spears were the butchered remains of horses. This paints a vivid and dramatic picture. 300,000 years ago, on a lakeshore in Germany, a group of early humans, likely Homo heidelbergensis or early Neanderthals, were not hiding in the bushes. They were organizing. They were communicating. They were setting an ambush. As a herd of horses thundered past, these hunters stepped out, arms cocked, and launched a volley of missiles with deadly precision. They were the masters of their domain. Chapter 4. The World of Many Humans. We tend to think of human evolution as a single line, a lonely procession leading to us. But 300,000 years ago, the world was a crowded place. It was a Middle Earth of different human species, each adapted to their own corner of the globe. In Europe and Western Asia, the Neanderthals, Homo neanderthalensis, reigned. They were the people of the ice. Short, stocky, and incredibly muscular, they were built to retain heat and wrestle with large prey. Their noses were broad and cavernous, designed to warm the freezing air before it hit their lungs. In the vast stretches of Asia, the mysterious Denisovans lived, giants of the East known mostly from their DNA and a few fragmentary bones. On the isolated island of Flores in Indonesia, a peculiar thing happened. Evolution, playing with the rules of island dwarfism, produced Homo floresiensis, the hobbits. Standing only 3.5 feet tall, they hunted pygmy elephants and avoided giant Komodo dragons. And in Africa, our own lineage, Homo sapiens, was quietly emerging. Let us pause to look at the Neanderthals. History has been unkind to them, painting them as brutish, stupid thugs. But the archaeological record tells a story of profound humanity and heartbreak. At Shanidar Cave in Iraq, we meet a man known as Shanidar I. He lived roughly 40,000 to 50,000 years ago. When he died, he was an old man by Paleolithic standards, perhaps 40 or 50, but his life had been one of agony. His skeleton reveals a catalog of injuries. A crushing blow to the side of his head had likely left him blind in his left eye. His right arm was withered, likely paralyzed or amputated above the elbow years before his death. He had a limp from a leg injury and suffered from hearing loss. In the brutal calculus of the wild, Shanidar I should have died young. A blind, one-armed, limping predator cannot hunt. He cannot defend himself. And yet, he lived for decades. How? The only answer is compassion. His group, his family, took care of him. They shared their food with him. They guided him when the terrain was rough. They protected him. This skeleton is irrefutable proof that Neanderthals possessed deep emotional bonds, that they valued the life of their kin beyond mere utility. At the same cave, another skeleton, Shanidar IV, was found curled in a fetal position. Analysis of the soil around the body revealed clumps of pollen from wildflowers, yarrow, cornflower, hollyhock. For decades, this was interpreted as a flower burial, a funeral rite where mourners placed bouquets on the grave. While modern science suggests burrowing bees might have introduced the pollen, the fact remains: Neanderthals buried their dead. They did not leave them for the vultures. They placed them in the earth, sometimes with tools, sometimes in specific postures. They understood loss. They understood death. They had, in every sense that matters, a soul. Recent discoveries in Spain have pushed their humanity even further. Cave paintings, hand stencils, and geometric shapes have been dated to 64,000 years ago. This is long before modern humans arrived in Europe. The artists were Neanderthals. They too felt the urge to leave a mark, to reach out across time and say, "I was here." Chapter 5. The Dawn of the Modern Mind. While Neanderthals were surviving the ice, Homo sapiens in Africa were undergoing a revolution of the mind. Between 100,000 and 70,000 years ago, something clicked. At Blombos Cave on the southern tip of Africa, looking out over the Indian Ocean, archaeologists uncovered a 100,000-year-old studio. Here, early humans were running a chemical laboratory. They were collecting red ochre, a soft, iron-rich stone, grinding it into powder, and mixing it with charcoal, crushed seal bone, and animal fat inside abalone shells. They were making paint. Why? Paint does not kill antelope. It does not keep you warm. Paint is for symbols. It is for painting the body to say, "I am a hunter," "I am a leader," or "I am of this tribe." It marks the birth of complex social identity. In the same cave, they found a small block of ochre, dated to 77,000 years ago, etched with a cross-hatched geometric design. It looks like a hashtag. This is one of the oldest known engravings. It is abstract art. It signifies that the human mind had transcended the literal and moved into the symbolic. They also found tiny marine snail shells, Nassarius kraussianus, pierced with holes to be strung as beads. Jewelry. Fashion. These ancient people were adorning themselves, signaling their status and individual identity. The modern mind had arrived. Armed with this new cognitive flexibility, complex language, and advanced projectile weapons, bows and arrows, spear throwers, Homo sapiens began their second definitive exodus from Africa around 70,000 years ago. They swept into the Middle East, moved along the coasts to India and Australia, arriving by boat 65,000 years ago, and pushed into the cold heart of Europe. There they met the Neanderthals. What happened next is a mystery of sex and violence. Did we war with them? Did we outcompete them? We know we mated with them. Most people alive today outside of Africa carry 1% to 4% Neanderthal DNA. We are the children of those encounters. But slowly, inevitably, the other human voices fell silent. The Neanderthals retreated, faded, and by 40,000 years ago, they were gone. We were alone. Chapter 6. The Cave of Dreams and the Burin. Now, imagine yourself in southern France, 32,000 years ago. The grip of the Ice Age is tight. The landscape is a tundra steppe, roaming with woolly mammoths, woolly rhinos, and cave lions. A group of humans enters a deep limestone cavern now known as Chauvet Cave. By the flickering light of pine torches, they begin to paint. But these are not crude stick figures. They are masterpieces. They use charcoal and ochre to depict a pride of lions on the hunt, their eyes focused and intense. They paint horses with thick manes, their mouths open as if whinnying. They use the natural bumps in the rock to give the animals 3D muscle and volume. They even invent animation. A bison is painted with 8 legs to simulate the blur of motion. These artists were not primitive. They had the same artistic genius as Da Vinci or Picasso. They stood in the dark, smelling the musk of the cave bears that hibernated there, and they externalized their dreams onto the walls. Deep in the recesses of Chauvet, there is a trail of footprints preserved in the soft clay floor. They belong to a child, perhaps 8 years old. The child walked barefoot, holding a torch. We can see the charcoal marks where they tapped the torch against the wall to revive the flame. But the child was not alone. Running alongside the child's footprints are the tracks of a large canid, a wolf, or perhaps the very early stages of a domestic dog. The tracks are fresh together. The wolf did not stalk the child. The gait suggests they walked in tandem. This image pierces the heart. A small child and a wolf walking together through the eternal dark of the underworld 30,000 years ago. It is a testament to the connection between human and animal, a bond that would eventually lead to the dogs sleeping at the foot of our beds today. We were here, the footprints say. We were friends. 6.3. The tool that built the future. The burin. While the artists painted, the tool makers were innovating. In the narrative you provided, you mentioned a tool called a burat. In the precise language of archaeology, this tool is the burin. The burin was the machine tool of the Upper Paleolithic. It was a chisel-faced flake struck with a specialized blow, the coup de burin, to create a sharp transverse edge. With the burin, humans could work materials harder than wood. They could carve antler, bone, and ivory with precision. The burin allowed for the invention of the eyed needle around 20,000 years ago. This seems trivial, but it was revolutionary. With a needle, humans could sew. They could make tight-fitting, tailored clothing, trousers, parkas, waterproof boots. This technology allowed our ancestors to survive the brutal cold of the last glacial maximum, conquering the Arctic latitudes where no naked ape should survive. Chapter 7. The Twilight of the Giants. The world these ancestors navigated was inhabited by true monsters. The script mentions 12-meter giants. While the terrestrial world did not host 12-meter, 40-foot tall mammals, the woolly mammoth stood a majestic 10 to 12 feet, approx 3.5 meters, at the shoulder. The giant ground sloth, Megatherium, could rear up to similar heights. However, the 12-meter figure might recall the colossal marine and reptilian giants of prehistory, or perhaps the sheer mass of the Paleoloxodon pneumaticus, an ancient elephant that stood 5 meters tall and weighed 22 tons, truly a mountain of flesh. These creatures were the lords of the steppe. To hunt a mammoth was to challenge a god. Yet our ancestors did it. They built houses from mammoth bones. They carved flutes from mammoth ivory. Around 12,000 years ago, the world began to change again. The ice sheets retreated. The sea levels rose, drowning the land bridges. The great thaw had begun. The megafauna, the mammoths, the woolly rhinos, the cave lions, could not cope. The changing climate and the relentless hunting pressure from efficient human predators drove them to extinction. But there was a ghost. On Wrangel Island, a remote outpost in the Arctic Ocean, a population of woolly mammoths survived. Isolated from humans and the warming mainland, they endured for thousands of years longer. They finally went extinct around 4,000 years ago, c. 2000 BCE. Pause and consider this. When the Great Pyramid of Giza was being built, when the Sumerians were writing on clay tablets, when civilization was already rising, the last woolly mammoths were still walking on Wrangel Island. The Stone Age and the Bronze Age touched fingertips across the ocean. With the giants gone and the climate warming, humans in the Fertile Crescent made a choice that would close the book on the Paleolithic. They stopped wandering. They noticed that certain grasses, wild wheat, wild barley, grew in predictable patches. They began to tend them, They began to plant them. They domesticated the goat and the sheep. The Neolithic revolution had begun. We traded the freedom of the savanna for the security of the granary. We traded the campfire for the hearth of the mud brick house. The population exploded. Cities rose. The 2.5 million year wander came to an end. And so, we arrive at the present. You sit there, surrounded by the fruits of that 1% of history. The lights, the screens, the heated rooms. But strip it away, and you remain a Paleolithic creature. The journey from the first clack of the Oldowan stone to the swipe of a smartphone screen is a direct line. We are not different from them. We are them. The artist in Chauvet Cave, the compassionate family at Shanidar, the curious child walking with the wolf, the genius who tamed fire, they are alive in you. Their struggle is your biology. Their triumphs are your instincts. Their story is your story. So tonight, when you close your eyes, do not fear the dark. Your ancestors conquered it. When you drift into sleep, remember, you are the descendant of giants, the heir to a 2.5 million year legacy of survival against the odds. Good night.